No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I was sweating getting on here on time because we had another session. But yeah, I'm good.
Sweet. Yeah, we had over 130 registered, so I'm hoping everybody got the link and it didn't go to their spam folder. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight, taking the time out of your busy schedules to invest in yourselves as sport officials so that hopefully you can achieve your goals and excel as an elite basketball referee. I know most of you have stated in your registration that your goal is to get to that next level, regardless of what that is, whether it's the D2 or D1 level. So kudos to all of you being here.
Hey, Lika, we got some serious feedback from Dean Hunt, I think. There we go.
Let me try doing that. Okay. All right, so to give you a little bit of background on myself and Xcel officiating, I am now entering my 10th season as a basketball official, but really this is only my 6th year refereeing at the level that I'm at. I mean, the first 4 years of my career were pretty much stagnant. I was just kind of floating. I had no idea that there was a ranking system in my state association. So for the first 4 seasons, I was only calling middle school and JV games. But I think the turning point for me was in 2016. I had just got done reffing a JV game, and I was in the locker room. The varsity officials were there getting ready for their game, and I sat in on their pregame, and I just, at that moment it hit me. I wanted to get to that varsity level. So I started asking questions, how do I become a varsity referee? How long does it take? What do I need to do? That's when I found out that there was a ranking system, and I needed to attend clinics. I needed to attend camps, take the test, all of which I had no idea existed. I mean, honestly, I didn't even realize there was a manual or a rule book for basketball officials. And so after the 2016 season, I attended my first 3-person training camp. I picked up a mentor, and it just became a constant grind for me after that. And since getting acquainted with how the ranking system worked, I was always looking for ways to put myself out there and just be a sponge, and I've been very blessed and fortunate to have climbed through the ranks of the officiating ladder as rapidly as I did. I've now been selected to work 2 state high school championships. I had a really good off season at my college camps, and so it's been a crazy and wild journey, but it's been very rewarding as well. This past July, I actually got selected to work the championship game for the TBL, so semi-pro league that I work in. So it's just, I've been very fortunate. I've been very blessed to have been able to network with so many officials who are just willing to invest and pour into me. So I greatly appreciate that. But I'm 38 years old now, and as the saying goes, the players stay the same age, but we as officials, we get older, right? And I honestly feel that had I known about this ranking system and all the other requirements that it takes to move up the officiating ladder much sooner in my career, I probably would have been able to advance at a much younger age. And so my heart for Xcel officiating is to take my experiences and help those who are coming up behind me. This is a pay it forward mentality. I don't charge anything for mentorship. And so again, it's just a pay it forward mentality where I believe that, we as officials, it's important for us to recruit, to be able to retain officials that are coming up behind us and to pour into and invest in them as well. So with that being said, this year's camp theme is From Here to There. This isn't your ordinary camp where we're going to be talking about play calling, film breakdown, drives to the basket, positioning, things like that. We're going to be walking through details that take place off the court so that if you apply these things, it can help you excel on the court. All of us here are at different walks in our officiating journeys. We all got our start somewhere. Some of us have been officiating for decades. Some of us are just now getting started. So with where you're at now and whatever your next desired level is, the question is, how do I get from here to there? Well, who better to learn from than our first guest clinician, if you will. She's no stranger to NCAA women's basketball, and she's seen a great deal of success in her career, both as a student athlete and a referee. Prior to putting on the stripes, she's a two-time NCAA national champion with the Lady Texters of Louisiana Tech. And then after her playing days, she decided to start reffing and has since served as Secretary Rules Editor for the NCAA. She is a former national coordinator of officials for NCAA women's officials. And she currently now serves as supervisor officials for many different conferences, including the ACC, the American Athletic, Atlantic 10, the Big East, Big South, Colonial, Ivy League, Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, and Southern Conferences. And so the list certainly goes on with her accolades, with her successes. And so it is such an honor to have you here tonight. Dr. Debbie Williamson, thank you so much for taking the time to be here out of your busy schedule to invest in these aspiring referees. And so welcome, and how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I need to switch chairs because I can't reach the floor.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, that's better. I'm well, thanks for having me, and I'm excited about spending some time here. So yeah, I have done a lot of things, but I'm going to turn 60 this year, and that's why. You live long enough, you'll do a lot of things too.
Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past year or so. Debbie and I both serve on an advisory board for an organization called Sport Officials Surrendered. And she was one of our key speakers for our Referees Embracing Faith conference back in 2020. And we're also part of a devotional group that takes place every Monday evening called MND, which is hosted by NCAA Division I men's referee Nate Harris and his wife Jessica. And so if any of you have a faith in Jesus and you're looking to get plugged into a community of Christian referees, this is a great community, again, every Monday night. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll get you the information. But anyways, I wanted to talk to you, Debbie, about a lot of your successes, some of your past experiences as a referee. But 4 Final Fours during your time at Louisiana Tech, I mean, that must have been an incredible experience. Can you kind of share what that was like?
Yeah, it was awesome because I wasn't very good. So I was riding the wave. Let me just say that. I grew up in a really, really small town. We had the largest high school graduating class ever of 34 people. So I had never seen a football game ever in my life till I went to college. I'd never had, I'd had 1 or 2 pizzas before. So all the good things, I'd taken 1 fly trip. And then I actually went to Louisiana Tech on a softball scholarship. And my sister was really good in basketball. They were recruiting the fool out of her and they weren't looking at me at all. And I was the one giving her the ball. But God had a different plan. And, she was just like not taking good care of herself or her career. And I was dying to play college basketball. And so we tried out at Louisiana Tech on the softball field and then in the basketball court. And they're like, okay, we'll split a scholarship between the 2 of you. And she's like, but they said, you probably won't play much. And she's like, oh, heck no, with other language, I should say. and took off to a junior college in Texas and ended up at Baylor of all places. But so they gave me the whole ride since she rejected it. So I was on a full softball scholarship, one of the first 4 ever offered for softball, and recruited as a pitcher and played everything else. And so I played both sports, walked on the basketball team. So I'm saying all that to say that it was never my plan. And I didn't know, kind of like the coordinator job, like I didn't know people did this for a living. I hated referees as long as I could remember. So it's not like I set out to do this job either. So, I'm really grateful that God had a plan for my life and that he didn't leave me in charge of it, because I'd have certainly screwed it up. But yeah, so I went to Louisiana Tech, and I mean, they were a big deal. I had no idea how much of a big deal, but my freshman year, we were 34 and we were undefeated the first year, and that was the AIAW National Championship. And then the next year was the very first NCAA offered championship ever in the history. And we lost 1 game that year and won that national championship. And then the next year we ended up in LA playing at the Forum and lost to USC. So don't talk to me about Cheryl Miller. I don't really want to talk about it. So, in the national championship, and where she drop kicked the ball. Still, they show every year. It makes me sick. And ironically, the guy who refereed that game is my assistant here at the ACC.
Nice.
He's 120 years old, but yeah. And then my senior year, we went back out there and lost in the semis, which was terrible. But whenever they switched my scholarships over, the NCAA made a rule you couldn't be on a minor sport scholarship, play major sport. So I thought my life was over, and because I did not want to play softball, I just wanted to be in the gym. And I'm a good example of somebody who did everything they were supposed to do. And I hear this from referees, what else do you want me to do? And I mean, some of us I wasn't good enough. I guarded Kilmulkey every day for 4 years. Actually, before that, because we played in the North-South or the East-West All-Star game as high school seniors.
Wow.
And my coach told me that I could have a basketball scholarship as long as I got in her shorts every day and basically made her miserable, And he goes, the day actually, the way he said it, the day you take a day off of giving her all you have, you're going home. Well, I had 2 alcoholic parents. I wasn't going home. I was the oldest of 5. I had been changing my little siblings' diapers. So, I only share all of that with you so that when you talk about my resume and all the things I've done, it was birthed out of a culture where you worked hard and you didn't quit. And I worked to get out of there, and I wasn't skilled enough. So I had to work even harder, and God put me in a situation where I still wasn't good enough. So now, fast forward all these years later, and I'm answering these questions from referees like, why are you cutting me? Or why aren't you picking me up? And I've done everything. And I know what that feels like as an athlete, for sure. And sometimes our best just isn't good enough for where we want to be. It just isn't. But that doesn't mean we can't serve a role or a purpose. But that's the only reason I share all that, because to put it in perspective about where we are as officials, sometimes we need to embrace where we are when we are doing everything that we can do and serve whatever role we can serve.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of like you, I relate, as back in my playing days, I could not stand referees. And so, it wasn't until after, I played a little small college, at Nebraska Christian College, but, it wasn't until after I was playing that I wanted to stay connected to the sport. And so it just happened that, the church league that I was organizing, we needed officials. And so I unfortunately had to put on that sacrifice and wear the stripes. And so for you, I mean, did you do any reffing while you were playing at Louisiana
Oh,
Tech?
heck no, 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 no. I didn't want to see a striped shirt. My husband, when he was on the men's team, and he was a year younger than me. And I can't remember what the timeline was, but he refereed small college. I don't even remember how, if I knew he was a referee, why I would have married him. So I must not have known, because it was later. I remember we had been married for 2 years and I was still not washing his uniform. I was a Division I assistant coach and he could not walk through the same room. He had to go out the back door. It was really bad. It was really bad. But anyway, no. In fact, the only reason I ended up refereeing was because I can't remember all the timelines, but I was a Division I assistant, I think, for 5 years. When I had a flat on a back road in South Georgia and thought I was going to die. I thought somebody's going to kill me out here and I won't know. And now I had played basketball in Europe, in South America, places where if we had died, no one would know where to look for us. I mean, no lie. And I mean, Brazil, down the Amazon, like you name it. I mean, like 9 different countries that nobody cared about. But I remember thinking, if I ever have the opportunity to have a child, I want that child to have me as a mom, and my husband not raise a kid by themselves. And then in that moment, I thought, I am going to get out of this. I can't do this because I want to raise my own kid. And so when I made that commitment, I said, Lord, I will. And I told Stan, my husband, I'm like, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll follow you. And I want you to be the leader of our home. And I want to let you lead, which is really hard. My kids and husband would argue that I'm still not doing that 35 years later. But I had people go, well, why don't you referee? And I was like, you're out of your mind. I am not running up and down that floor, because that's what I had done. And so I ended up coaching my boys' teams, JV, and coached some other things just to make money, because we couldn't make really ends meet. So I was having to do part-time stuff. And then my husband decided he wanted to be an AD. So I was like, well, dang, I'm going to have to go back and get my doctorate so I can teach wherever you work, because you're not going to hire me, or you shouldn't hire me. And so I did that. And during that time, I was teaching part-time at a junior college, homeschooling my kids. And one of the junior college teachers, I was teaching basketball. Everywhere I'd go, I'd teach basketball. And he's like, you got to referee. And the year I was writing my dissertation, we moved to Thibodaux, Louisiana. And the middle school group was meeting like right outside somehow. I don't even remember how I ended up in the building. I was hooked within 10 minutes, because the first about 8 of the 10 was me telling myself, you got to be kidding. You cannot be interested in doing this. But once I started running up and down the floor, I could not get enough of it. Went to camp that summer. My youngest, I was like 35 or 6 or 7, I don't remember. And my youngest was, I don't know, 2 or 3 or something like that. And I thought, oh, great. How am I going to do this and homeschool my kids? But I did. For the next, we moved to North Carolina, and you had to try out in high school. And for the high school association, I had done 1 year middle school. And literally there were 50 people trying out for like 10 spots. So when they talk about a shortage now, that wasn't the case in the Research Triangle, where you got Duke, State, and Carolina right down the street. But yeah, so I refereed a year of high school, and then I got scooped up with D2 and 3, and I only refereed 7 years. So it's not like I have this big illustrious refereeing career. I really don't. I mean, I did some NCAA Division II regionals, and honestly, I think I got hired because I was a woman. But I wasn't going to turn it down if they were going to give it to me. I mean, I saw some guys out there I thought were much better than I was. So, even back then, people were doing that. So yeah, that's my entire officiating career. And my husband brought home a job description for the NCAA secretary rules editor and sat down in front of me, and he goes, because I was doing 85 games a year for like 3 years, no lie. And I'd homeschool in the day, bust my butt to get to a gym, come in really late, start over. And then he goes, this job was made for you. And I just started bawling. I thought, this is it. I'm coming off the floor. But I also knew I was missing my kids' careers. And I'd gotten away from coaching to raise my kids, and I was not doing the job I needed to do. So I came off, wrote the book, ended up doing one thing and another.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask, that was going to be my next question, as far as, I mean, you've had some pretty important roles, within the NCAA. And so, at what point, I guess the question is, what point did you really want to pursue being a part of the officiating world?
Well, it was kind of it all just happened, because if you listen to my story, I didn't plan on anything. I just needed to get out of Hayes and Bell City. And God was tugging on my heart and really convicting me, because I was not behaving at one time. And well, more than one time, but he was just really tugging on my heart that I was not doing the best I could. And I wanted to please, and I wanted to do right. And I was a hard worker. So, when you put that together, and I know there are people on this call, same thing, because I've seen some of you at camp and I know this is true. You're really hard workers. You put your whole heart into what you're doing. You've got integrity. You're just doing the best you can with what you have where you are. And I had that little sign. I say this all the time. When my boys were coming up, I just put that right in front of the toilet on the wall, because they spent a lot of time there. So I wanted them to get really good messaging when they were sitting there. Do the best you can with what you have where you are. And so I think that when I look back, and if, when I have to provide a resume or a bio, I go, dang, I've done a lot of stuff that I had nothing to do with, other than being obedient and working hard wherever I was and trying to do right, but also just trusting God that He was going to guide me. And then I mean, still to this day, like, Lord, use me despite me, because I'm flawed and I'm broken. And but yeah, so I wrote the rule book, and it was so funny because I was at camp that summer, and I had gone like 7 camps, because by this time I don't know if I was 40 or somewhere around there, like trying to get in Division I and running out of time, because I thought I was old then. But I remember sitting at the camp, we're all hanging out at like the ale house or whatever. And somebody goes, yeah, what if a player, shoots the ball and somebody throws the defender throws their shoe at the ball and it hits the ball. And I'm thinking, I said, well, let's ask so-and-so, because like 4 Final Four officials at the next table, like, let's ask them. And so they just like made stuff up. And I knew the rules. I worked hard to know the rules, because I remember as a coach being mad at people who just, screwed off as referees. So I remember thinking, that is not in the book. But who am I? Like, I've been refereeing like 4 years. And so stupid me, I go, where is that in the book? And they go, oh, bleep the book. Like, and I'm going, that's my point, But the job opening, I had applied for the job, but I wasn't going to tell anybody, because I didn't want anybody going, what, like me refereeing at camp the next day and somebody going, she applied for the rules editor job. But it just kind of happened. It was just bizarre. I went for an interview. It's like nobody wanted the job, tell you the truth. And I had a doctorate, and I was teaching part-time at the college, so I guess they thought I was smart. And the truth is, I got that doctorate thinking somebody's going to need to see those letters. I'm just going to have to fight through this, because I don't do math. I was provisionally accepted at every level. I failed every entrance exam, which is the story, right, of just hard work. But it really was that. And then out of nowhere, we're shooting the RA video the year we put the RA in. And John Adams walks in and he goes, the national coordinator, women's national coordinator just resigned. I'm like, what? Like, it's September. And then out of nowhere, they, I'm actually about to resign from those positions. It's the custodians are cleaning the building. I'm about to resign from that position in December, and the VP at the NCA, I told my boss at the time, I'm like, I'm giving it till Monday because I'm dying. I'm just dying. And I was 5 years in at the time. And the VP called at midnight. He goes, I hate to hear you're resigning because I was going to offer you the job to do both. So I was like, well, dang, I'm now what, And I'll never forget. I don't know if this is how you design this, Alika. I hope you don't mind me sharing all this stuff. And I'm not reading the chat because I can't do both things at the same time. So if I need to know something, tell me. But I remember, oh, by the way, one of my players is on here as a referee. One of a girl who played for me. She was the point guard where I coached in college. Yeah, I saw her name on here earlier. There she is. That's funny. You're getting old too. No. What was so funny was at that time, our youngest was, I don't know, he was freshman or sophomore in high school. And so he walks in and he goes, all right, what's going on around here? And he's the biggest redneck. And I said, well, your dad and I are talking. He goes, yeah, I know what's going on. This is how he says it. What's going on? And I said, well, the NCAA offered me the job as the national coordinator. It's like in charge of all the referees. And he goes, well, but you write the rules. I said, I know, but they're also wanting me to do this too, And he goes, so what's the big deal? I mean, what's the problem? And I said, well, I got out of coaching to raise my kids. I got out of refereeing to raise my kids. And you're the only one we have left. And I don't want to screw it up. And he goes, oh, Mom, I'm going to be 16 in June. I'm going to get a truck and not see you, no way. And I was like, oh my gosh. More the reason for me to stay home because you have no grammar. But anyway, and then my husband's jobs changed and we moved different places and I did whatever I needed to do in those places. So
awesome.
Yeah. So it just turned into one thing and another. I can't even, I can't point to anything other than just grace, unmerited favor. I don't.
Amen. Well, there's a couple of things that you had mentioned. You had talked about the grind, basically, just there's so much pressure, you just want to give up, but you just gotta go forward. And then one of the other things that you had mentioned was, you felt like the only reason why you got hired was because you were a woman. What were some of your biggest hurdles as a referee, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I think as a referee, well, as a player, it was being short and not very good. As a coach, not shooting, because my sister was shooting all the time. As a coach, honestly, like all of us, right? At every station, we can point to what was the rub, really. And honestly, if you look back on it, you're really honest with yourself, it's probably something that stretched you and made you better. So I think that some of the hurdles in refereeing, honestly, was, I hate to say this, but one of the first things that come to mind is nobody gave me credit for knowing the game because I hadn't refereed 15 years. There were no women around. I was just with a bunch of guys much older than me. I was trying to be like, not talk about my basketball background. Like nobody knew my background. They didn't, like, I didn't say, oh, I've been to 4 Final Fours and, played with Olympians, like I know the game. Like, don't try to talk to me about, like, you don't even know where the elbow is, fella. But just like, there was just no credibility if you didn't have the years in. And there was no way I was going to get 15 years in. Not with that, I started late. So that was a real struggle. But honestly, it wasn't going to do me any good to talk about myself. I just wanted to get trained. Well, then I was criticized for going to camps. Then I was criticized for going to so many camps. Then I was criticized for, why are you going to the Big 12 camp? You think you're good enough to be in the Big 12? No, I don't. I just want to hear what other people have to say and what's a different philosophy, like going to Marla Denham's camp at the Big Sky after I got the rules letter. If I had known about that camp when I was a referee, I would have gone because it was so out of the box. Or ref school, Penny's camp up in the Northwest. I would have gone. Like, I just wanted to learn. But people were highly critical of doing things differently, and they still are. I just decided a long time ago, I need to be me, and I need to do this business the way I need to do the business, because I'm going to have to answer for it. And it's a struggle because it is very different. So
yeah,
those were some of the hurdles. And I'll tell you the other thing though, and I've spent the last 6 minutes trying to avoid saying it, but at the time, just the sexual harassment piece, that was and I've never really talked about that, but I cannot not say it, because I can't leave this session without saying that, because that's what I thought of immediately when you asked me what were the difficult pieces. Because the guys, and they were good guys, they just had been used to talking the way they were talking, I guess, to people. And, they would say things, and being a bit naive, by the time I figured out that was what they really meant, it was like, what do I say? And we were sharing locker rooms with the men's crews, right? Division 2 and 3. And there were some really inappropriate things. Thinking back on it now I don't know that I'd have known what to say still, because I'd just been flabbergasted that they said it in the first place. But that was a real struggle as a young woman trying to get started in officiating, and just like, get me out of here, coming in the locker room and them going, yeah, we've been through your suitcase. And, it just like, what do you do as a young official? Like, who do you tell? Because the people above them are just like them. So, well, I mean, we're just one phone call away from a sexual harassment suit in this business. I've been saying it for 20 years.
Sure. So, a lot of the registrants that came in, 92% of them have stated that they want to get to either the Division 2 or the Division 1 level. As a former national coordinator and a current supervisor of officials, can you kind of share what are some key attributes in officials that you look for when it comes to hiring for your staff?
So I would say that it's going to be fitness, because that's the first thing we notice, and that speaks to credibility. Now, there are a lot of fit officials, not a lot, but there are fit officials that don't understand our rules or our mechanics. So it can't stand alone. But I can tell you that when I talk to coaches, and again, having been one and meeting with coaches now and for years now, that's where we lose them from the beginning, is when people don't take their fitness levels seriously. So, and I understand that takes work, because right now I'm not putting in the work to be the fit person I need to be. So I sympathize with that piece and the sacrifice that It is, and more for some people than others based on body type and building all that other business. But I have a great respect for people who make it a focus. And at the AC town hall meeting today, staff meeting, they presented a book that said, you've got to treat it like your job. Like, and I thought, whoa, that would be huge. I would be really fit if I committed to my fitness level the way I commit to my job. But, and when my job was refereeing, I was, but I I'm working all the time and I'm not taking time to take care of myself, quite honestly. But fitness level, and then after that, your rules, mechanics, and communication skills. So, I know people that are as fit as they're ever going to be. I know people that are, their judgment may be as good as it's going to be. Their mechanics couldn't be better. And yet I don't hire them. And they go, well, why not? Well, when I look at the overall roster, I look at the landscape of what the roster looks like, what the requirements of the league are. So, and I'm not even going to talk about COVID, but even without it, if I have two referees that are very, very similar and one can drive to 4 locations, even though they're both flat fee, and the other one is a connecting flight away, then I go, why do I want to put myself in a position to have to wonder if they can make it there? Or is it a one shot in? And now I got to go through the whole travel tutorial. And so there's that, there's that piece. There's so many layers. I don't even know how to answer all of them because there are so many layers. I look at, so as soon as I pick up another a league, the first thing I do, and this happened like after I did this when I got the American Big East, I did a little more when I got the A10, did it much more with the MAC and the Ivy. And then as I added leagues, I usually don't make very many changes at the very beginning outside of a handful that I know just, it's not what it's, maybe they don't represent what the brand represents, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Because if I put my name on that brand, then my name is on these people. Now, while I can't change everything, and nor should I have to answer for these people represent the league first, and they represent my stamp of approval on them. That said, what I've also learned is that there are a lot of people on a roster that are going to be available when no one else is.
Sure.
So I need to keep the best referees, which means high call accuracy, professionalism, integrity. I have a real problem with people lying about their addresses. For example, working for leagues, and I have not applied for one of these leagues. I was approached for every one of them. And I only say that to say that I didn't go in and scoop somebody else's league up. If a league reached out to me and said, we want to talk to you, the first thing I said is, have you told your supervisor? Because if you don't tell them, I will tell them. And then, by the way, the reason that you keep seeing the same people is because you won't let this guy bring, or girl, lady, bring in whoever they want to bring in. So if you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. And it doesn't have to be me. It could be them.
Right.
So, there's some of that going on where they go, oh, we only want people within a 75-mile radius. Well, guess what? If you live outside of 75 miles, I can love you. I can even like you, but I'm not hiring you.
Right.
Because the league hired me to do a job. And so the league is never going to come out, and I'm never going to come out and go, this league wants me to hire this type or that type, and this one doesn't. And so we got all these things going on in the background app refresh thing going on. And so outside of fitness, high call accuracy, there are all these other parameters. And honestly, in my spring reports, I have to put down how many men, women, minorities I have. People want to know, am I giving underrepresented groups an opportunity, whoever they are? And I've got numbers for 10, 11 years of what I'm doing with in every way you can squeeze data.
Right.
So I'm not trying to be, it would have to be that I've got to answer questions. But I've also got to live with myself and know that I'm doing my best to do what they asked me to do and put the best officials on the floor. But back to the lying about your address thing, I told the league, I'm like, I have a problem. We're in the business of integrity. And yet, because you are paying mileage and you have a budget that you don't want anybody to break, you get in the same people because this person's doing their job. So if you want better people, you're gonna have to let me require people to be honest about their addresses and then pay them a flat fee and only mileage over 500 miles so that I can swing people from San Diego through Olean, New York,
Right.
There are a lot of pieces to it that I can't even describe. Because I've hired Bonnie Pettis manages the Mac and the Ivy on the day-to-day, and Judy Stroud the Big South Southern Colonial day-to-day. And I have Bonnie and I refereed a lot of stuff together. I've had other people, part-time workers, and they're like, you got to be kidding. We had no idea this stuff goes on in the background.
So we are getting a little short on time. So I do want to ask another question before I open it up for Q&A. I was at a camp this past summer, and we kind of had a Q&A session with the clinicians. And one of the questions that was asked, is there anything that you would have done differently early on in your officiating career? And one of the clinicians' answers was to not go to not go to every single camp that he could. And so I think that's kind of one of the things that I even struggled with, is feeling that in order to advance, in order to get exposure, in order to be seen, I have to go to any and every camp that I possibly could, which, can be expensive. And so is there any insight you could provide to officials who are aspiring to get hired at the college level as far as, choosing which camps to go to?
Well, the people who make six figures refereeing will tell you don't have to go to every one of them. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, sure. It's easy for you to say, because you did already go to all these camps and now you're making all the money. And now you're going to tell me I don't have to go. Yeah. Right. I think that my answer to the question isn't about camp so much is I would have closed out dates. I would close out dates. I would not miss my daughter's state tournament.
That's good.
I can't get it back.
Right.
I wouldn't have missed. It's too painful to think of the things that I missed. I just, it's not worth it. I had a referee email me because, the irony is I was never going to be a major college basketball official. When I tell you that, and I would say that I was trusting the Lord with my future and I was working my butt off to take care of my future. So was I really? He knew that my refereeing days were numbered. And if I had been obedient to close dates and not go to all these camps and not miss all these things that my family needed me for in the name of I'm doing my very best and I need to whatever. Like he knew my refereeing career was only going to last 7 years and it wasn't going to, like, which conferences were going to pick me up and I'd never work a game in those leagues because I was going to take the rules editor job. I should have closed the dates out in my gut. When your anniversary is, people, when those birthdays are, when your wife's due date is coming, you should be blocking those days off. And even if she goes, no, honey, it's okay, you go ahead. No. You look at the things that you cannot get back, do not miss them.
Amen.
Because I'm telling you, and don't ask them if it's okay, because they're going to tell you to go, because you've already communicated the fact that, just like I did, that I was considering missing this. They don't want to disappoint me and go, no, Mom, I really do want you to stay. They're not going to say that, or Dad. And your wife's like, no, go ahead. If you have the nerve to ask, you just go on. I don't want you here anyway. I'll do it myself. I'm telling you, if in your gut, you know you need to be there, even if there are no signs, close the date out or turn the game back. So if I had to do it over again, I would not be so selfish. I would close dates. And I tell people all the time, basketball will be here. And honestly, I could walk away right now and go referee somewhere.
That's good.
And y'all can too. It will always be here. These kids won't.
Priorities are everything.
You can't get it back. If you can't get it back, don't miss it.
Amen. Well, I really appreciate, you taking the time to be here with us tonight. I want to open it up for Q&A. There is a question in the chat that came to me. I want to ask is, what is your pet peeve of officials, those that may or may not work for you?
It's taking each other out. Taking each other out.
That's good. Does anyone else, if you have a question, is it Sadiq?
Just gossiping. Gossiping drives me crazy. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Ms. Williams, thank you. You really touched me there when you talked about missing your daughter's games, and I'm guilty of that. And I just feel I feel like you really hit a chord with me when you talked about closing your dates and making sure to put family first. The first question I have is, there seems to be in college basketball that we have to make a choice between officiating men's or women's. Some do both. Is it common to do both? And the reason I ask is because I do men's college, but I just have an affinity for the women's game. It's a different game, and it's a beautiful game, and I've worked as a consultant on the women's side. So I just wonder, do you have to have a choice to pick one or the other? And the second question is, I can hold off on the second question, but go ahead.
I think that depending upon where you live, if like you're the only person or the best person that can referee basketball and they can't get people there, they're not going to care if you're doing both. There are regions, as you know, in South Dakota or wherever, where I hear stories about how hard it is to get people to referee. People want good referees refereeing their games. So I think out east and east of the Mississippi and in large part in, the heavier populated areas in Texas, I don't know of anybody trying to do both. I don't think those games allow people to do both.
Right.
Because one of the things that drives the women's basketball referees crazy is when a men's basketball referee shows up at camp and they're like, yeah, I'm on the men's side and I'm thinking about coming over to the women's side. Like, man, you just, you're done. So if you're and on the men's side too, right? They're like, oh, he's a women's basketball referee. Forget it. Let's next court. So I wish people were more welcoming of each other. They're just not, unless they're really desperate for referees and you're good and you can manage the people. But the stigma is real, and the competition is so great right now that they just go to the next. I don't have the issue myself, but I also, like I said, I don't really see things the same way as some of my colleagues. Some of my colleagues don't want G League referees. They don't want people that are, on an NBA track. I don't care. Like, I want you to do what your refereeing is called to do. As long as you use our mechanics and our rules, then if you can do that and pull it off, like, I don't really care what you're refereeing. But I have that issue with WNBA referees coming in with their WNBA stuff. That's not right either. Like, do the job, do the best you can with what you have where you are and yeah. So that's what I see. I wish it weren't that way, but I think you got to be humble and just go referee. And honestly, if there's a men's official trying to get on the women's side, I would try not to answer too many questions. Like, when we move to a new place, I tell the kids, don't answer all their questions. Just go do your job. Just go do your job.
Okay, thank you for that. And the last question is there somewhere we can go to, some of us officials who are up and coming, to find a catalog of hiring camps for women's and men's, strictly for Division I hiring camps? Well, I don't really know where to go. I know people talk all the time about, Philly Ref or Ref Philly or whatever that website, but is there somewhere we can go to where, hey, okay, this is a hiring camp. This is not a teaching camp. This is not a grooming camp. This is, for you to get hired.
Let me tell you what, you good enough, every camp's a hiring camp. I don't care what they say. Everybody, if I go to a camp and I call it, all my camps are teaching camps, but I'm not going to not hire somebody that's really strong, that they're doing, or they live someplace that I need, or like every camp's a hiring camp. I don't care what they say. The Philly Ref thing, like, that's the only comprehensive list, but then I go there and I see my stuff isn't accurate. So I don't know how accurate it is. And that may be because I'm not, turning the stuff in or something. I don't know, but I'm sorry, I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, the only advice I have about camps is find a really good teaching camp and somebody who runs your region of the country. Hopefully you can get both at the same place, but what we know is that's not always the case. It depends on what your goals are, so. But I would say, if you go to a camp, let's just say, as a coordinator because I went to a bunch of camps. I didn't do my own camp this summer, so I spent 3 weeks on the road at other people's camps. And I remember thinking, why is that person wearing white socks with black shoes? Not a big deal to a lot of people. Why did that person not shave? Why is that person not fit? So if you're going to take the time to go, you need to go and give somebody like me a picture of what it's going to look like if you were on one of my games.
That's good.
No lie, like, it's real. Because I don't know how many hundreds of people I saw this summer, but the thing that helped me was I could picture that person on my court. I could actually even picture them talking to my coach, or not, but they were like put together. Now, they weren't walking around like they, own the place and like I was paying to see them, because that's like a next court thing. Like, I'm moving on. But you got to give us a really good image, and then don't be schmoozing up with everybody and trying to be so cool out there. Just go do the ref thing. Like, just go ref and look the part. Great questions, though.
Anybody
I'm
else
only
have any
answering for
questions?
me, so other people may feel differently. Say again.
Hi, my name is Maurice. I have a question.
Okay.
So as far as women, we hear so many things about, like, everything has to be natural as far as hair, nails. What is your outlook on that?
I think that's helpful. You know, I think women are so hard on women. And I think some guys are hard on women, especially strong women with opinions. Like they don't want that a lot of times as supervisors. So figuring out, you know, what, like I had a female coordinator say to me, like, can you believe she wore that shirt? It was like a yoga type thing. And I'm like, he's standing over there without a shirt. She has a shirt. He has no shirt. We're going to complain about the kind of shirt she has. Well, it's very suggestive. He has no shirt on, like half of his body's naked. So I think there's a real double standard a lot of times for the expectation for women about other women, and quite frankly, the stereotypes sometimes that of what we should be and all that. And not to mention, if you've got a great figure, all of a sudden things change, you know, oh, well, she's this or that. So I think that as far as the neutral thing, I don't think it's very appealing for me to walk up to a court and somebody's wearing pink nail polish, for example. I think that anytime now in the summer, I don't really care, but some people get wrapped up around that thing. The rest of the time, I think you should be you. And I think that people like me should not worry about what your hair looks like as long as it's pulled together. Now, I'll say that when the hairstyle was that it's sticking out in all directions and it's glued that way, so it's not really moving and flying around, it's just ugly, then it's just ugly hair. And people don't like to look at ugly things. So I think you should pull yourself together, not you, Maurice. But I mean, I think in general, people need to pull themselves together and look professional. And do I care if people have tattoos? No, I don't care. Do I care that their belly's hanging way over their belt? Yeah, I do, because it doesn't look like you take this business seriously. Do I care that you wear a man's hairstyle? Or if you're a guy that you wear a ponytail? That doesn't bother me, as long as you look professional. It looks like you take this game seriously, because the coach in me is like, I'm putting in all this time and you're going to come out here like this. I mean, it speaks to the credibility for whenever you do have a whistle. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that there's some credit to just, depending upon where you are, you know, I played in South America. They didn't shave under their arms. Nobody cared. The rest of us were like so grossed out by it. So depending upon what your culture is, some things are acceptable, some other things are not. In the officiating culture, turn on the TV and watch who's getting the games. It's usually people pulled together, fit, good looking. Good whistles, good judgment.
Thank you.
And if they don't have it, they're faking it really well. But I think that's why, you're welcome. But I think also what I'm learning is, if I go someplace and I don't know people and everybody goes, oh yeah, they're at the G League, you know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so guess what? I have to watch them a little longer actually, because they've gotten such good training at looking good. I got to figure out if they really are good. Just based on appearance, I stopped at the court because they looked really pulled together and they were humble. They were like, they were just refereeing. So I can't even remember your question now, Maurice. Did I answer it?
Yes, you did. I was just asking on the professionalism side how you look, because it's always a lot of scrutiny. So that does answer my question.
Yeah, I wish it were not so, but I think, but I also think that, you know, hair is a big topic for women. And I know in particular for the Black women on my staff, like we've had these conversations, like, what do I feel like is acceptable hair? And I'm like, however you want to wear your hair, you should wear your hair. You want to wear braids, you want to wear, you know, you want to cut it really, really short. Like, again, as long as we're pulled together and we're clean top to bottom, like we're not distracting everybody, because I decided to wear my ponytail on this side, just one of them. Or pigtails. When's the last time you saw a referee wear pigtails? It doesn't happen. Like we figured out kind of what is acceptable. So I may not like it, but I also think we shouldn't be so wrapped around the axle on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I was just asking more so for the hair too, because I have like some of my hair is dyed blonde and they were like, oh, you need to cut that if you want to come back to camp next summer. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's too bad, because at camp, I mean, like y'all get a few months, especially after the year we just had. Now, I have a hard time like turning off the beard when I'm trying to watch somebody referee. So like there's some things some people can't turn off and picture them on the floor. Because again, I said, I'm trying to picture if it's easy for me to see you on my court, I'm more likely to hire you. And again, not you, Maurice, but like, so if let's say I have a problem with, the rainbow hair, like seriously, like got a rainbow thing going on, then I go, oh, I wonder what else is, like what might pop up during the season. But I'm also the person that would say, you can't do that during the season, right? And then you were like, well, yeah, I do, but it was for my daughter's special occasion at school yesterday. And I go, that's why we shouldn't be worried about that kind of stuff. So I guess you have to know who you're trying to please, not you, Maurice, but just in general. Some people can't tolerate certain things, and it's unfortunate, especially in the summer.
Understandable. Thank you so much for your
you're
feedback.
welcome. I appreciate your boldness in asking the question because it is a big deal.
That's good.
But people interpret things, misinterpret things, I should say. And some people think you're trying, not you, but people are trying to draw more attention to themselves, and they don't want people, we're paid to not draw attention to ourselves. So people will misinterpret some of those. Their cues, they will take them as relevant cues, and they're really not. But it's hard when you're at camp and you have one spot and there's 100 people, you're looking for ways to rule people out. I'm sorry. Because you have to.
That's good. All right, we're gonna do one more question. South Dakota in the house. Andrew Gross, what's up, man?
Andrew Gross, I was busting on South Dakota, but don't take it personal, bro.
I didn't take anything personal.
I know.
So I guess my question is,
wait, you have to sing a song first.
Maybe later, maybe at the very end.
Okay.
But what's it called? My question is, so if you have a supervisor or coordinator who doesn't like communicate very well, doesn't give you feedback, rankings, things like that, like how would you approach that with that supervisor? Or how do you think that's kind of a lost cause for a league and you should search for other leagues? Or do you think it's just a conversation to be had?
I think that, we're told not to give y'all specifics from an independent contractor status so that we aren't in a legal situation treating you like an employee. Now, that said, we tell you what to wear, what time to be there, what you can and cannot do. And now we're going to tell you have to have a vaccine. So I don't know how valid the argument is, but we've used that anyway. I think that, part of the struggle I have is I've got 245 independent contractors, and of the 245 independent contractors, I probably have 75 who think they're employees, and they want me to treat them like employees until I treat them like an employee. Then they tell me they're an independent contractor. So I think it's a fine line about what we really can ask, because the truth is sometimes when people say, why am I not getting more games? I just want to say, you're not that good. So then they would say, then why do you have me? Well, because I don't have anybody else on a Sunday. Like if we could really say what we think, and some people do, I think that people wouldn't want to hear the truth. And I tell people all the time, don't ask me unless you want to hear the truth. But the first answer was probably the more appropriate answer, in that we are told not to say, what it is. And again, officials are looking, not officials, but, and when I say, we're not like, you have to separate, you've got all the M&Ms and you can only take 10 of them, or apples, let's just say, or strawberries. I was cutting strawberries for the kids this morning. Like, yeah, hey, you can come in. I got to go through and pick out the goodies bag. Oh, you leaving? Am I by myself?
No,
I'm the only one in the building? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Miss Kim. Miss Kim tells us when there's snakes outside. And there are. But yeah, you've got to, I had to figure out which one were the good ones. It's the same thing when I'm at camp. I'm only going to carry X number of people because everybody else is going to be unhappy. And I got to figure, how do you make these decisions? Y'all do this in your own jobs. Y'all have to make a decision to go left or right. And whatever criteria you have to meet to go left or right in your job, you're doing it. For us, it's you. And I'm probably not going to go say, listen, every time the ball goes to the corner, so does your nose when you're at trail. Every time. Now, the clinician told you at halftime to stop watching the ball when it goes to the corner because you got to come off and go to the post. And I'm telling you, for people that work for me, I'm going to tell them that once, maybe twice, or at camp, I'll go by the court and I'll tell Joe Vasili, Joe, do me a favor. Tell Brandon he needs a haircut and not to come to camp looking like that. Back to Maurice's question, because he keeps moving his hand across his, can't leave it alone. He cannot leave it alone. I have a ponytail holder if he needs one. I'll be happy to give it to him so I can actually watch him referee instead of tugging on his pants that are too tight. But how about this? Tell Brandon at center in transition, he's always looking at the trail, at the new trail and the ball coming up while the trail's looking 1-on-1, 2-on-2. And then I'll watch to see, and I know Joe will tell him that. And I know the referee will shake his head yes. And then I'll watch to see if he actually fixes it. If he doesn't fix it, I'm on to the next court. Now, if he wants to come say, what did I miss? By that time, there are probably 10 other things that I probably could tell him I had a problem with. And you know what? Most of the time, I've said it to them. So if you get into a conversation, I would just be careful how you phrase the question. Don't leave it open-ended. Just say, what do you think I do well? What do you think I do? But before you ask the coordinator, I'd go ask one of the top tier referees who's watched you. But Andrew, you know who you can talk to.
Yeah, that's true.
We all do, right?
Yeah. Can I ask a follow-up to that then as well?
Sure.
You talked about like getting to D2, but somewhat knowing that you weren't going to get to Division I. Like when did you kind of see the writing on the wall, or like is there a certain time frame, or just you're like, it's not going to happen?
Well, my situation, it was actually happening pretty fast. I mean, in a short amount of time, I was moving forward. Now, the question would be, if at some point I wasn't moving forward, then I just have to say, okay, Lord, you want me to do Division II? That's it? I'm all in. And then all of a sudden, D1 starts popping. I see it all the time. About the time people are ready to quit, stuff starts happening. And so I think you've got to really embrace where you are. Some people are called to do middle school ball, period. And I think, especially as a Christian, I've got to go where the Lord calls me to go. And if he had called me to middle school ball, then I needed to start praying to be content at middle school ball. Girls, It would have been terrible. Otherwise, I really do trust him with my future, or I don't. And I don't have to be happy because I'm competitive and I want to be at my very best, but I also have to trust that he knows where I'm going to be best. And that he's protecting me from something when I don't get my way. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my personal opinion. Because I'm telling you, college coaching the same way. And am I infringing on Joe's time? I'm 15 minutes into Joe's presentation. Joe, you need to work on cutting it short because I just ran into your everybody thinks all coaches think college coaching is the ultimate place to be. And I'm here to tell you, it is not what they think it is. My best, most favorite coaching job was middle school. So everybody's got a ladder in their mind. It just doesn't always work that way. You've got to really, and somebody commented here, Demetrius, you've really got to be humble. And for me as a believer, I got to truly say, if you want me to walk out of these doors right now and not come back, I want to be willing to do, if you call me to do that, and that's your will, I need to be willing to do that. And all of a sudden, I think we get better when we let go and just go referee.
Yeah. Well, Debbie,
You have the best gig, by the way. It doesn't get any better than refereeing in the game. I'm so serious. You go have fun. Go do it and do it to the best ability. Just give it everything and enjoy it, because that is the best thing. This side of it, this isn't it, y'all.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much for, again, taking the time to be with us. I know you're extremely busy. I mean, the season is just over a month away, and I'm sure you're getting ready for scrimmages coming up. So I really do appreciate your willingness to be here and to invest in each and every one of us. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm happy to help.
Awesome.
In any way. This is an assignment. I'm on assignment. This is just, I'm on this side of the ball, and y'all are going to be, some of y'all are going to be on this side of the ball if you aren't already. So thank you. Great question.
Awesome. All right. Well, before I get into our next clinician, Zach Stevenson, Mr. Zach Stevenson is in the house. He is our new commissioner of officials here in the state of New Mexico. So thanks for being here, Mr. Stevenson. If you are a New Mexico official, he is offering a 3-person camp credit. So please let me know that you're in the New Mexico Officials Association so we can make sure that we get you credit for being here tonight.